Hello there, lovely people. It's Alex from Nintendo Life here, and today we're going to be reviewing for you What the Golf on the Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by the excellent Stuart Jipp and has been adapted for video by me. But anyway, that's more than enough waffling. Let's dive right into things. A bit of an odd thing, but golf has always translated rather well to video games overall. Maybe because it's just kind of a simple thing. Whack a ball with a stick and physics and flying around, get it in a hole, it's all good. And your only real enemies besides the aforementioned laws of physics are your other opponents, and even that's a bit of a stretch. You can play it by yourself. What the Golf, though, is not really golf. I mean, it's barely golf, really. Or maybe it's the most golf to ever be golfed. After hours spent in its bizarre thrall, we're still not really sure what to make of it. I mean, where do you even start? It's one of those comedy games, the sort that often aren't particularly funny and don't include much gameplay to make up for it, but What the Golf is above par, yes, thanks to its real surplus of enjoyable content. There's very little to the game in terms of mechanics. You hold A and move the left stick to set power and angle of your pitch, and then release it to strike the ball, get the ball to the flag, win the hole. At least that's how it is at first, for literally a single level. Immediately following this, What the Golf starts to get just a little bit silly. I'd be remiss to give away too many of its gags, but rest assured you'll be knocking around more than just golf balls, as you'll be able to tell, because obviously we've got to show you footage, and it would be boring if we didn't. Every one of the many quote-unquote holes has some sort of new gimmick or new take on an existing gimmick. This is the major strength of What the Golf: variety and more than plenty of it. There's not a colossal amount in the way of challenge on a basic playthrough. Even the trickier holes can be generally conquered quite quickly, but it's compelling on a very primal level. You'll want to see what new twist they can possibly think of next, and to the developers' credit, they keep you guessing all the way through, and there have been numerous instances when, even though I've played it for a couple of hours, I've been taken aback and properly surprised, and not what I expected has happened. It's wonderful. The structure of the main game takes the form of an overhead map which you navigate using the same standard control scheme as the rest of the game, a sort of a golf lab in which many different holes can be accessed. As you progress, you'll open up more and more different sectors of the lab, each one populated with a number of holes to play. Gradually, you'll also unlock warp points that make getting around an awful lot easier. It's a nice, immersive system and adds to the coherence of the whole enterprise. Whilst there are plenty of different wild takes on golf here, everything is ultimately filtered through the same set of mechanics. It's pleasingly consistent. It would be an impressive clutch of levels even without all the extras that What the Golf is packing. Every single hole has a variation, usually offering some sort of restriction, such as par that you've got to beat, and generally you're allowed as many attempts as you like, though some are effectively completely separate holes to clear. Beating this challenge stage will grant a third and final take on the hole you're playing, usually another completely different idea, and beating this grants you a crown and a fully cleared hole. What this boils down to is a suite of many ideas that all work together neatly and build on the concepts that they introduce. It's effective, addicting, and extremely satisfying. Graphically, it's a fittingly minimalist experience, with its fairly flat, low-polyish look calling to mind similar comic indie titles such as Donut County and Untitled Goose Game. In fact, it's so similar looking that it's arguably a little bit derivative of its style, though it does work in context, especially at its silky smooth 60 frames a second. It's a bit of a shame that the visuals don't really change along with the gameplay, with a few excellent exceptions. But the whole thing is function over form. The aforementioned consistency that keeps things from being overwhelming is on display in What the Golf's visual style as well as its controls. There's not a lot of music here either, but when it does kick in, it's sort of a cappella style, which is just a little bit too twee for some tastes. but me personally, I quite like it. Besides the extensive campaign, there's a wonderful new party mode which brings the same level of creativity to split-screen multiplayer for 2 players. It's brilliant fun, but it's a shame that more golfers can be accommodated. I mean, what kind of party only has 2 attendees? I can't think of a single instance where 2 people would want to spend time on their own in a room with no disturbances. I mean, it's just not a thing that's gonna happen. What the Golf is a sterling effort for Switch that has clearly had enormous amounts of love poured into it. Its aesthetic is a little bit indie by numbers, but there's so much to see and do here that'll have you, and potentially a friend, laughing out loud. It may not be the most difficult game in the world, but it's damn good fun, even if you don't like golf. In fact, especially if you don't like golf. It's that time again. Yes, it's Alex's personal thoughts, and I don't have too many. I think the review summed it up quite well, but I do just want to reiterate just how much ludicrously good fun this game is, and it is out and out perfect on the Switch. The fact that you can just pick it up, play a couple of holes, put it down, and then just get on with the rest of your life and then come back to it. Just really quick fire gameplay. It's just so suited to that. It's just so wonderful. And it's not like you're ever going to come back and forget the controls or anything like that. If anything, going away and coming back a little bit later and doing it in little bits here and there, I would say is actually better because you'll reduce the overall fatigue and the expectation of new ideas, which means that you'll be even more surprised when stuff does happen. I mean, I did play for hours on end, you know, just in a single session for at least a good chunk of it, of what I've played, and it was still wonderful though. So if you do want to sit down and just knock this thing out, then you can do that as well. It's really hard to talk about the bits that I really loved without giving it away, so I'm going to spare you just because I really think you should experience it for yourself firsthand. So I'm just going to say I can't recommend this game enough, honestly. It is just out and out bizarre, wonderful madness, which is weirdly consistent at the same time. I don't honestly think there's a game like it out there, or maybe there is, I don't know. Either way, my god, this is good. You should definitely get it.